Hey Alex, I've been getting so many messages from our listeners asking for help with English grammar. Some say it's like deciphering a secret code.
Oh, I totally get that. English grammar has so many rules, and just when you think you've mastered one, another exception pops up. Where should we even start?
How about we begin with verb tenses? I feel like that's one of the most confusing areas for non-native speakers. There are so many tenses and it's hard to know which one to use when.
Great idea. Let's start with the present perfect tense. I often hear learners mixing it up with the past simple tense. For example, I have seen that movie yesterday is incorrect, right?
Exactly. The present perfect is used to talk about experiences or actions that started in the past and have a connection to the present. We use it with time expressions like already, yet, ever, never, and just. So, it should be, I saw that movie yesterday, past simple for a specific pastime, or I have seen that movie, present perfect, no specific time mentioned, just the experience.
And what about the past perfect tense? It always seems so complicated.
Well, the past perfect is used to show that one past action happened before another past action. Think of it as the past of the past. For instance, when I arrived at the party, she had already left. First, she left, and then I arrived. It helps create a clear sequence of events in the past.
I see. But what about the future tenses? There's will, be going to, and the future continuous. How do we choose?
Will is often used for spontaneous decisions, predictions, and offers, like, I'll help you with your homework. Be going to, on the other hand, is used for planned actions or based on evidence. For example, look at those dark clouds. It's going to rain. The future continuous will be plus verb, ing, is used to talk about an action that will be in progress at a certain time in the future, such as, tomorrow at this time, I'll be lying on the beach.
That makes sense. Another tricky area is conditional sentences. The zero, first, second, and third conditionals can be really confusing.
Absolutely. The zero conditional is for general truths. If you heat ice, it melts. The first conditional is for possible future situations. If it rains tomorrow, we'll stay at home. The second conditional is for hypothetical or unlikely situations. If I won the lottery, I'd buy a new car. And the third conditional is for past hypothetical situations. If I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam.
Yeah, and the verb forms change depending on the type of conditional. It's easy to get mixed up. What about relative clauses? I know they're used to give more information about a noun, but there are so many rules about when to use who, which, that, and whose.
Right. Who is used for people as the subject of the clause, like the man who lives next door is a doctor. Which is for things, the book which I read last week was amazing. That can be used for both people and things, and it's often used in informal English. Whose teach shows possession. The girl whose bag was stolen is very upset. And then there are restrictive and non-restrictive relative clauses. Restrictive ones are essential to the meaning of the sentence, while non-restrictive ones just add extra information and are set off by commas. For example, cars that are fuel, efficient are popular, restrictive, and my car, which I bought last year, is a hybrid, non-restrictive.
Wow, that's a lot to remember. What about phrasal verbs? They seem to have a life of their own. There are so many, and their meanings can be completely different from the individual words.
You're so right. Phrasal verbs are combinations of a verb and one or more particles, prepositions or adverbs. For example, look up can mean search for information, as in, I looked up the word in the dictionary, or look up to means admire, like I look up to my parents. And then there are separable and inseparable phrasal verbs. With separable ones, you can separate the verb and the particle with the object, like I turned the TV off, or I turned off the TV. But with inseparable phrasal verbs like look after, you can't separate them, so it's I look after my little sister, not I look my little sister after.
And don't even get me started on articles a, an, and the. When do we use a or an? And when do we use the, or no article at all?
A and an are indefinite articles. We use a before a consonant sound and an before a vowel sound. For example, a book, an apple. The is the definite article, used when we are referring to something specific. The sun. The girl I met yesterday. And we don't use an article with plural countable nouns or uncountable nouns when we are talking in general, like dogs are friendly or water is essential for life. But it gets more complicated with proper nouns and specific contexts.
It sure does. Another grammar point that confuses many learners is the subjunctive mood. I've heard it's used in certain expressions and after wish and if only, but I'm not clear on the details.
The subjunctive mood is used to express a hypothetical situation, a wish, a suggestion, or a demand. After wish and if only, we use the past subjunctive to talk about present or future wishes. For example, I wish I had more time. I don't have more time now. And for past wishes, we use the past perfect subjunctive. I wish I had gone to the concert. I didn't go to the concert in the past. In expressions like, it's important that, it's necessary, that, we also use the subjunctive form, which is the base form of the verb. So, it's important that he study hard, not studies.
That's a tricky one. And what about modal verbs? There are so many, like can, could, will, would, shall, should, must, might, may. Each one has multiple uses.
Yes, modal verbs are used to express ability, permission, obligation, possibility, and more. Can is for general ability. I can speak English. Could is the past form of can, and is also used for polite requests. Could, you pass the salt. Will is for future intentions. I will visit you next week. Would is used for polite requests, past habits, and hypothetical situations. Would you like some tea? I would go for a walk every day when I was young. Should is for advice. You should eat more vegetables. Must is for strong obligation. You must wear a seatbelt. Might and may are for possibility. It might rain tomorrow.
It's overwhelming how many different functions they have. What about inversion? I know it's used in questions, but I've also seen it in other situations, like with never, hardly, and only.
Inversion is a really interesting grammar feature. In questions, we invert the subject and the verb or use an auxiliary verb before the subject, like, are you coming? With negative adverbs like never, hardly, seldom. When they start a sentence, we use inversion. For example, never have I seen such a beautiful sunset. Only also causes inversion in certain structures, like only then did I realize my mistake. It's a way to add emphasis or change, the normal word order for a specific effect.
There's just so much to learn about English grammar. And what about countable and uncountable nouns? Sometimes it's hard to tell if a noun is countable or not, and it affects the use of articles and quantifiers.
You're right. Countable nouns can be counted, like book, apple, and they have plural forms. We can use a, an, and numbers with them. Uncountable nouns, on the other hand, can't be counted, like water, information, furniture. We don't use a or an with them, and we use different quantifiers. For example, we say some water, a lot of information, a piece of furniture. But some nouns can be both countable and uncountable, with different meanings, like paper, uncountable for the material, and papers, countable for documents.
That's so confusing. And what about the use of gerunds and infinitives? When do we use ing forms and when do we use to plus verb?
Gerunds and infinitives can be tricky. After some verbs, we always use a gerund like enjoy, finish, mind. So, I enjoy reading. She finished writing the report. Do you mind waiting? After other verbs, we use an infinitive like want, hope, decide. I want to go home. He hopes to get a good job. They decided to travel. And then there are some verbs that can be followed by either, with a change in meaning. For example, remember to do something means you remember to do a future action. Remember to lock the door, while remember doing something means you recall an action that has already happened. I remember locking the door.
I think our listeners will be taking lots of notes after this conversation. Is there any final advice you'd give to learners struggling with English grammar?
I'd say practice is key. Try to read as much English as you can, pay attention to how grammar is used in context. Write in English, whether it's a journal, emails, or social media posts. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn and get better. Also, try to break grammar down into smaller parts and focus on one area at a time.
That's great advice. I hope this helps our listeners finally crack the code of English grammar.
Me too. I'm sure they'll be speaking and writing more confidently in no time.